We're going to talk about the 2019 achievements. There were a lot of things that were achieved, a lot of developments, a lot of features and products that were developed. We're going to talk about infrastructure as code because that's where everything is going. So if you're not there and you're not conversating about this, at least you should know what it is, and we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about how to protect platform as a service environments. Is it part of the new hybrid? That's a good question that any one of you should ask himself. We're going to show you some NSXT, well, at least some new developments, some new stuff coming from the product marketing side. And we're going to talk about 2020 roadmap. Well, some features that are already baking in the oven. And I'm going to try and dive into some of them, zoom in and show you, what's going to happen, not just with words. You guys, if you have any questions, don't be shy. Just raise your hand, ask them. It's kind of an intimate session, as is. And also, I'll try to avoid calling you guys from now on. And my name is Amit. Yes, sorry about that. You should all know me by now, obviously. But if not, my name is Amit Schnitzer. I've been with Check Point for the last 4 years. And it was always around cloud. So it started with the VSec journey, and now turned into the CloudGuard family of products. So that's what I've been through. I have a pretty good outlook of how CloudGuard implementations look like around the globe, because part of my job is to go around and help customers develop, design, architect their environments. So once again, you can ask questions during this session. You can try to engage later on, not try, but succeed. I'll be happy to. So CloudGuard IaaS, as it also referred to, some people call it CloudGuard IaaS. So if you hear that, it's the same thing. Basically, it's Check Point's gateways. It's Check Point's, 26-year-old intellectual property centered into one great product that is a network inspection point, right? So you put your layer 3 device on the network. You get your traffic flowing through that device, and then you can apply the blades on top of that. But there's some benefits. So this gateway, or this, well, some refer to it as firewall, but it's so much more than a firewall, right? You can apply it today, you can implement it on top of public clouds, private clouds, and hybrid clouds. So what is hybrid cloud? Is that like a special cloud? It's actually a combination of public and private, referred to as hybrid. So when we say public, private, and hybrid, it's kind of distorted because hybrid is actually public and private together. But basically, this is, I think, one of the benefits of CloudGuard IaaS. When you deploy the products on top of any of public cloud vendors or environments, or any of the private clouds, whether it's NSX or Cisco ACI, even OpenStack, it's all going to be the same. Once again, it's the Check Point firewall, it's the Check Point gateway, and you get all the benefits that you usually have with it. So it's the same old good magic, great product that you can use wherever it is. And you can see on the slide the different platforms that it supports already. We are investing, and you're going to see it later on you have seen it during the keynotes, I guess, but you're going to see it on my slides as well. A lot of the conversation, a lot of the actual work that is being done is around automation, is around agility, is around frictionless. So keep that in mind. And by now, if you want to deploy CloudGuard IaaS on top of any of the platforms, you can do it manually, one by one, with your hands, the old way, just without the hardware piece in it, right? Or you can actually use a template. You can use a coding language, and use a template, whether it's CloudFormation on Amazon, whether it's the ARM templates on Azure, or even OpenStack Heat templates. It's the same thing. So agility and elasticity, again, just to make sure, elasticity means the ability to grow and shrink based on the load, based on the requirements of the environment. So all of these is something that, back in the days, to do that with a physical firewall, physical appliance, is kind of a challenge. I must say that Maestro, that was introduced lately, is also a big progression, even in the hardware land, towards this, because Maestro can elastically grow and shrink based on the load, based on the environment that it operates in. I want to talk about this and make sure that you all go out today at least with this in mind. So Check Point already has that feature ingrained inside for the last, I guess, 3 years. Yet I don't see a lot of customers using it. And I think, and usually from what I see in the field, talking with customers about it, it's lack of knowledge. They just don't know that it exists. But basically you can start consuming native objects, native constructs from the public environment, from the environments, the cloud environment, so public, private, and even more so, yeah, you can see a hint here. You can start consuming objects and constructs from even non-related cloud-based, so Kubernetes, wherever it's deployed, you can start using and enjoying the native nature of dynamic objects as part of this. So CloudGuard IaaS is a north-south and east-west data plane security. And this is important to understand because if you've been on my blueprint architecture design session, you would know that this is great and essential, but this is not the full picture of security on top of environments, specifically cloud environments and specifically public cloud environments. So just to make sure that you understand, CloudGuard IaaS is our data plane, network-based security, and anything that flows through that gateway, anything that flows through that device, we can then inspect and take action. But that's the basic assumption. And the last thing that is very important to us as well, of course, with the CloudGuard IaaS, is the consolidated and unified management. So if you've been on the keynote, the REITs keynote, you now know that we're investing a lot to move a lot of the things to be on the cloud as well. We're talking about management as a service. We're talking about UI as a service. We're talking about logs as a service. But the main thing behind those scenes, this scene, is actually to make everything through one pane of glass. It was always the thing with us. In the shifting period that we're in at the moment, it's kind of a challenge because we have different products that we're bringing together. But I can see this happening already with all the beta versions on top of the Check Point portal. So take an eye on that. You'll see it later. So if we're looking back on 2019, there was a lot of work done by our R&D. There's a lot of people sitting in Tel Aviv office and operating or building the next thing that you guys will then use. So to name a few, the first thing we did last year, at the beginning of last year, was Amazon Transit Gateway. This was also part of the blueprint design because a lot of our customers adopt this and started using. The second thing was NS6T allowing east-west protection within this new VMware environment or this new VMware SDN approach. The ability to consume vCenter tags. So what does it mean? So like I said before, well, please raise your hand if you know what CloudGuard controller is. Okay, so the rest, I'm investing the time for this. CloudGuard controller is a piece of software that is on the management server. It's already part of R80 and on. So if you guys have R80, I did say guys now. If you have R80 or R8010 and on deployed in your environment, you already have that installed. You don't need to install anything. You just need to start using it. But what it means is that you can start pulling objects from vCenter into your policy. You can start using VMs, for example, and just put them as the source or destination of your policy. Why is the benefit of this? So the first thing is that it allows you to speak the same language of your system administrators, right? Because you can start using the same construct that they just created. So a person goes and creates a new VM on vCenter. It's just an example, right? And then you can actually see the same VM added to the policy. And from that point on, this object will be automatically and dynamically adaptive. So if the system guy now changes the IP address of that machine or changes the name of that machine, it will automatically be reflected in the policy. That's the benefit. And when I say automatically reflected, we're talking about 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds, you don't need to install policy, and you don't need to do anything about it. You can be logged out, asleep at home, and still this will happen on its own. This is the adaptive nature. So using a VM as an object is a great thing, but we've introduced the ability to consume vCenter tags. So now you can actually logically use logical groups of objects on vCenter that may or may not contain multiple objects. So a tag can have a one VM inside of it, or attached to it, or associated maybe is a better word. And then in a few seconds, a system guy, or you know what, let's go back to our automation piece. If someone now launches a VM using the VRO, that's the VMware orchestration tool, so it's launching a new VM that was not there before. If you used a tag in the policy and it's already there, then this VM, if it will be tagged correctly, will automatically be part of this policy, will just be added within 30 seconds. So again, we're trying to be frictionless about this, right? So if a developer creates a VM, tags it, then automatically it gets the security that it deserves. More examples. So VMSS on Azure. VMSS is the virtual machine scalability set, the auto-scaling capability on Azure, again, elasticity. And now we allow you guys to do blue-green deployments on top of Azure between VMSS. So if your VMSS is R8010, for example, you want to move to R80.30, we allow you to do it seamlessly. We will automate the process of this upgrade for you in a minimal downtime. And we're working on more use cases that will be automated for your daily operations of CloudGuard IaaS. I'm looking for more interesting. So Google Cloud, because we've neglected Google Cloud till now, but we've introduced MIG into that. So that MIG is an auto-scaling for Google. So you can use that. You can use Check Point as an auto-scaling construct on top of Google and enjoy the benefits of that, of course. Moving on, I want to talk about infrastructure as code. So like I mentioned, a lot of things now are automated. A lot of things are by a click of a button, or at least they are being worked at beforehand. And then replayable. You can replay them. You can see the benefits. I'm not going to read them out for you, and you probably figured that out by now, right? But infrastructure as a code makes a lot of sense for many, many reasons. Security is one of them. Efficiency is another. Cost, of course. And speed, because we're talking about agility. We're talking about the ability to deliver to business or allow the business to run faster, right? We want to pave road for the developers to be able to run on or drive on, actually. So when we're talking about infrastructure as code, we've started, for the past few years, we've started supporting many different platforms, deployment mechanisms. So for example, I've mentioned the Azure ARM templates. I've mentioned the CloudFormation templates. So I don't know if you know it, but you can go on Google and search for Check Point CloudFormation templates for Amazon. And what you'll get is an SK, Secure Knowledge article, with all of our deployment types that you can just run in your environment. Everyone can access it. Everyone has access to this JSON file repository. And it's pretty easy to use or even modify to your use case. If you have a different use case than what we offer as a default, then you can possibly modify it. Same thing works for Google Cloud. But in addition, a lot of our customers, they're not just using the native automation by the vendors. So they're started using, or actually there's tools that they are agnostic to cloud vendors, and possibly a lot of customers, they like that approach because then they're not locked in. Because if you're using CloudFormation template, not just for Check Point, if you're using CloudFormation template for all of your environments, all of your infrastructure, then possibly if tomorrow you'll be moving with the trend to do multi-cloud because everybody does, and it makes sense in some parts, right? Then your CloudFormation templates are useless. Well, almost useless to use on Azure. So if you're using a tool like Ansible by Red Hat or Terraform by HashiCorp, then possibly you can then use the code that is agnostic. You have one repository or one, I'd say like a tool that you can use across multiple environments, multiple vendors, when you name it. It's actually agnostic, like I mentioned. So Check Point for the past few months is already certified with Ansible. We had solution you can deploy using Ansible, the Check Point solution, the CloudGuard IaaS. But we've actually went another step forward and we took that to another level. We went to Red Hat and say, hey, we want to be certified by you, which means a lot of things, including support by Red Hat. If something goes wrong, if you're using the deployment of the CloudGuard IaaS on top of Ansible. Just 2 days ago, we actually announced that we are now a certified provider for Terraform as well. So again, you could use Terraform before. I actually have quite a lot of demos that I show where I deploy Terraform, Check Point using Terraform all across Azure, GCP, Amazon, etc. Terraform also, of course, supports private clouds. So as you can see, for us, infrastructure as code is a key thing, is a big deal. So for example, and this is something you may or may not know, our developers, our R&D started and they built their own source code repository on GitHub that is available for everyone. You can actually go on GitHub and consume those ARM templates by CloudGuard IaaS. And then, so for example, old versions may not be relevant to present on the Azure marketplace, but they could be very much relevant for you guys to consume, in your own environment using Terraform or Ansible, right? So this is a thing. And also, for example, yesterday I presented the blueprint design. Blueprint design is a big piece. There's a lot of moving parts. Richard Kov from Australia, he's our SE from Australia. He actually built a GitHub repository of deploying the blueprint by a click of a button. So actually part of the demo yesterday, I showed how I am deploying Richard Kov's Terraform script that was pulled from the GitHub repository of Richard. And again, it's taking something that you could do it otherwise manually, but it will take you longer. You might do some big mistakes while doing this. And if you're using automation, you can replay your deployment by a click of a button. So deploy it and then wipe it and then deploy it again and wipe it. That's what I do every now and then before I meet customers. You could do it if it makes sense to deploy it, one day deploy an application and then the other day just swipe it because it doesn't make sense, or deploy it on another cloud account or another region if that makes sense. That's how flexible, that's how agile, that's how elastic everything is now. You guys have any questions? You were very quiet, you in the front row. Stay quiet. It's good.
What's your name?
Now I don't remember. Okay, so I thought he had a question. So we're talking about securing PaaS services. So what is the difference between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service? So platform as a service is a service that is operated by the cloud vendor. It means that the cloud vendor usually is responsible for most of the infrastructure of those services. Well, not most, every. So for example, if we're talking here about S3, S3 is the storage service by Amazon. You have no visibility or control on what's happening, what this infrastructure is, what operating systems, what disks are being used, where is it located, or even the network leading to and from this service. But a lot of our customers are requesting us to include, because it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective to use those PaaS services. Because trying to build your own storage devices on top of Amazon, or trying to build your even MS SQL service on top of Azure may make sense for you, but you need a team of people to handle. While if you're using the PaaS services, well, you'll see it later with the MS SQL, it's just easier that someone else is operating it, right? Easier from an operational perspective. Someone else is taking care of updating the operating system or the application, or making sure that from a scalability perspective, if you're going to consume more database traffic, then someone else is going to provide it to you. You don't have to handle it. You don't have to add more servers or someone to wake up at night to take care of that. In this example right here, and all of those examples are actually examples that were already being used with customers. So in this specific use case, we had a customer who requested us to secure his environment access. So this is where the business lies, right? And he wanted us to secure access of this environment, these VPCs, into his S3 buckets, into the storage. And when I say secure, he wanted us to take, to make sure that when they access the S3, this traffic is secured. He wanted to make sure that when they're using S3, they're using it in a specific region, for example. And if it's moving files in between, for example, that these files they don't have the zero, any malware or any known malicious, footprint. So what we did, and this is a live working example, is we've connected the VPCs using the Transit Gateway to a hub, a security hub where we deployed Check Point CloudGuard IaaS. And we've connected the CloudGuard, the hub, just the hub, using VPC endpoint into the S3 bucket. And then using the policy on top of the CloudGuard IaaS, we had better visibility and control on the traffic going to and from. Another example, and this is an interesting example for me, at least I really loved this initiative, is a customer that they wanted to have bidirectional connectivity access between a third-party partner. So on one hand, the partner was using my customer as their consumer, as their provider, and on the other hand, the customer was a consumer of the partner services. So think about SaaS services that are not part of the offering that Amazon has to offer, right? We're not talking about the MS SQL or the S3 buckets or anything of that sort. We're talking about some other company, some other customer, I would say, that they have a service that they want to publish or expose to another customer. Well, using private link, now it's possible to do. And once again, you can connect directly the third-party partner to a VPC. But does it make sense? How do you control traffic? How do you see what's happening there? What about visibility? So once again, the hubs come into play. And in this specific example, the design that I created with this customer, there were two directions, incoming and outgoing, which is pretty much aligned with the blueprint design, if you know it. And if not, hit me up after the session, I'll show you. And in this design, all the traffic, and we separated between traffic coming from this partner and traffic going to this partner from security reasons, from performance reasons, from efficiency reasons as well. And this is another example. When we're talking about Azure, it's the same game, once again. Same game, I mean, there's going to be a service by the provider allowing you to hook a service directly into either your VNet or into the provider fabric. In which case, once again, if you have your business running in a spoke VNet, you can peer this spoke to a hub where the CloudGuard IaaS are deployed, and then have traffic inspected to and from. And once again, no big differences here. You can actually use Azure virtual links, which means they actually hook the same services, PaaS services, directly into the VNet. They will have an interface with a private IP of that subnet of that VNet into your VNet. And once again, this is even easier because now you have UDRs, the user-defined routes on Azure, that helps you manipulate the traffic and then decide how do you color the traffic, which traffic gets to the firewall, which don't. And again, those use cases are used by our customers already. It's not something I'm making up from my mind. Moving to NS60, this year was a big year of NS60. So VMware decided, they came out with a new SDN engine. They call it NS60 versus the NS6V, the old one. And some big changes architectural from their side. We were the first one to offer integration with VMware. They are a valued partner. We are a valued partner for them, and the other way around. So we work really closely with them, and I'm happy to say we can provide various implementation and deployments on top of NS60. If we're talking about north-south, east-west, two types of east-west, so we can do on-host service insertion. This is pretty much like the NS6V way of where a gateway, a virtual gateway, CloudGuard IaaS, gets deployed on each one of your hosts in the cluster. Or in the other way, you can actually deploy the cluster, deploy Check Point CloudGuard IaaS on a cluster that is remote to where your VMs are running. And then using VMware's encapsulation techniques, it will allow you to manipulate the traffic to and from that cluster. And again, there's a big announcement that was made, a few days ago. We've also adjusted the licensing of NS60. So nowadays, you will be paying for the cores that are being used inside the environment. This is a big deal. And this is aligned with any other product that we currently have out there. So it makes licensing in this realm really easy. You can buy a pool of licenses and interuse them between platforms as well. Okay? Let's look on 2020. So basically, a lot of things are coming in 2020, obviously. There's going to be more people, more attention around CloudGuard IaaS. And basically speaking, CloudGuard IaaS, this is like the 4th year that I've been involved with. So it's for me, and should be for you, it's becoming a commodity. If you're not using it already, if you don't know about the feature, get yourself familiar. I think you cannot allow yourself to not use CloudGuard IaaS if you have public or private cloud existence. So some of the interesting things that are coming up is UDR enforcement, for example. I mentioned those user-defined routes on Azure. The development team is coming with a feature that will allow us to make sure that the environment is aligned and actually sending the traffic to the gateways. So now we're taking an active part, right? Another example is the automatic NAT. We will be figuring out the configuration, not maybe, but specifically on load balancers, for example. If you create a new service on a load balancer on Google, by the way, this is true also for Azure, then we will add NAT rule, the corresponding NAT rules automatically on the policy. It will take that away from you. You don't need to handle that. You don't need to figure out. And it's going to happen as soon as this becomes. So we're going to be aligned with the configuration that happens on the vendor side. So this is the part of the controller that I was telling you about, the ability to consume objects on the policy that are taken from other platforms. We already support 9 different platforms, and we're adding more. So for example, we're adding Kubernetes, the ability to consume pods and constructs from the Kubernetes environment into the policy. Since time is of essence, I'm moving on. So this was already presented in a few other slides or a few other sessions, so I want to share with you as well. And again, this is pretty much talking about frictionless. We're trying to make security frictionless for our customers. In this example, what we do is you can then designate a VPC of your own and tell us, okay, I want to scan it. What's going to happen behind the scene is that we will be creating a tap, right? Tap, mirror, into the environment and then provide you immediate visualization. But we're also being fed with information. It's not just a blank firewall trying to figure out what the traffic is. We're going to be fed with threat cloud, IOCs, we're going to be, and then provide you with that information out of the box. You don't need to handle deployment of CloudGuard gateways. You can automate all of this, of course. So this is a big piece allowing you to start getting visibility. Because before we're even talking about security in clouds, for me, the number one thing is first see what's happening, have the visibility into what's going on. Only then you can respond. Only then you can tell what your posture is. Another great feature, in my opinion, and again, if you've not been using the controller, then maybe you don't even know how to evaluate. But we're talking about filter-based object. It's the ability to create objects on top of our management server that will correspond to multiple data center. So think about you have Amazon, Azure, and a vCenter connected to the management, as I told you before. And now you want to create a policy that isn't using an existing object on Amazon, Azure, or vCenter. You want to create like a wildcard object, right, that you can then place, and then whatever happens on Amazon, Azure, and vCenter will automatically be reflected into this wildcard. Or even if you're using another environment tomorrow, you'll be upgrading the vCenter using NSX. You want that to be also relevant. So this is what FBO is. The filter-based object will allow you to create those wildcard objects and then use them on the policy. And they will be, it's like a regular, it is a regular expression that will be implemented and used on the other environments you have. Okay, so you can, for example, you can create an object that says web servers, and any web servers, whether it's your Amazon or Azure or vCenter or any other environment that are supported, will be automatically added into this wildcard object on the go. So this is an example, and you can see how one object or one regex expression matches multiple environments, multiple accounts, multiple regions. It's just as agnostic and as, I would say, umbrella service this is. Okay, Shift is another product coming up really soon. 2 weeks? EA, okay, 2 weeks in EA, or EA in 2 weeks. So if you guys want to be part of this, let us know. But basically, once again, through the Check Point portal, the new portal, Infinity portal, you will be able to log in or create a connection to your accounts, Azure accounts, and then say, okay, I want to secure that by click of a button. It's not about deploying, clusters or auto-scaling or thinking about the security or thinking about the architecture. It's more about, this is my account, and I want to secure it. This is my check sign. And you will be getting a very intuitive user interface to use. It's pretty much like it's a UI, it's a web UI. And it's very simplified. It's not the smart console with all of the features, so that's the downside, but also the benefit, right? Because a lot of customers, they just want to be able to secure their environment by a click of a button. So Shift, this is what Shift is bringing in. Yeah, I made this just so you see it bigger. Kubernetes, we mentioned. So once again, this is showing how to use constructs and native objects from Kubernetes into the policy. It's the same policy. So you can have now mix and match your policy with any environment where the CloudGuard IaaS is installed and deployed. Right? So source might be the Kubernetes, destination might be your Azure. Another rule is source is Azure, destination is VMware. You can do it. It's your benefit. We're very flexible there, allowing you to enjoy this. And pretty much is probably the end of CPX, so this slide. But you can see, and then I'm going to leave it a little bit, you can see how many topics around cloud, around security in the cloud, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's the serverless, there has been a lot. Hopefully you've been to them. And if not, try to get yourself knowledgeable about them. I think you cannot miss this chance. Be on this wave. Make sure you're not falling behind. That's my opinion. And I'm here if you need anything else. Other than that, thank you so much for your time, guys.